So I would love for us to go into how we explain it in the book is the difference between masking for neurotypical humans and masking for neurodivergent humans. If you
Yeah,
can chat a bit about that.
totally. So I think that one way to look at this is that for neurotypical humans, like I would classify myself as neurotypical, masking is like a social skill. One day I like went to school pickup and I had had a hard day and the secretary was like, "Hey, are you okay?" And I just started sobbing. And like I know the secretary like in passing, she's a wonderful person, but that was like really inappropriate and also not what I wanted to do. Like I didn't want to be sobbing in the secretary's office.
She's maybe not the
Um
person to like offload whatever is happening.
Also like it's dismissal and she's the secretary, so like she's busy.
She's not asking for that. She's like, I take back my question. Actually, I take it back.
Yeah, never mind, disregard. Um, so in that moment, I was not able to mask, right?
Sure.
It would have been more appropriate and frankly more comfortable for me had I been able to just say, like, I'm fine. Thanks for asking. Blah, blah, blah. Right? So, example of
Hmm.
masking as a social skill. And then for kids who are not neurotypical, masking is more of like a survival skill. So, I'm going to use my daughter, Nora, who I have not pursued a formal diagnosis for, but for sure has ADHD. And she is high masking. If you ask her teachers, like she is on task, she's quiet, she's a joy to have in the classroom, she's collaborative, blah, 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 blah. And she's an incredible human. But the amount of energy that goes into her appearing that way in the classroom is monumental. And it is a survival skill. And what ultimately happens is because her body is working so hard to sit still, keep her face looking forward, not fidget, not talk out of turn, she A, misses a bunch of the academic stuff that's going on, and B, gets home and is so out of control in every sense of the word because she's just done. Like she's masked all day. She's got nothing left. So for her, that's not a social skill, right?
Yeah. Well, and what we look at here too is like, how does it show up then in their ability to navigate life? And so I'd wager guess that when she comes home and it's time to do homework, she doesn't have recall for what she'd done during the day because she probably couldn't take a lot of it in because she was just working on trying to sit still and not fidget and look forward and etc. And so I think of this from when we're thinking about teachers and classroom settings, what's mind-boggling to me is that if we say like, all right, you have this much capacity and we pull out like a glass, right? And we say, here's the capacity that somebody has. And we say for a neurodivergent human, we are going to look at this and say, okay, every time they have to sit still, they have to sit in this type of seat, they have to wear certain things, they have to look forward, they have to move through a transition where there's a lot of noise. Anytime they have to do certain things throughout the day that are really about like compliance from, I would say, an old school space of like, this is just how a human should present in a classroom. Every time they have to do that, if you're pouring water into that glass, it's going to overflow pretty quickly. And then they don't have any capacity left for the academic instruction, for building the social emotional skills, for the other things we actually want to teach them. And for kids like myself, for a neurotypical human, when you have that same glass, you're not pouring as much water in for me to sit still, for me to navigate a transition, for me to look forward, etc. Like my nervous system integrates that sensory stimuli and that information in a different way. And so I just have more capacity then for the academic instruction, for the social emotional skills, and we could both present the same way. We might both be quiet on the surface, you know?
This is what I think is so challenging with children who are high masking is like I think about when Nora gets home and we're doing homework and I'm like, did your teacher explain this or do you have notes on this? And she's like, I don't know. And there's part of me from social programming from childhood. That's like, okay, well, did you listen at all during, like, great,
What were you
awesome
doing?
job?
Did you pay
Yeah,
attention? Yeah.
correct, right? And because she is so high masking that it's easy to like look at the behavior and be like, the heck you doing? Come on now. Whereas like when I take a minute and think about this rationally and what I know about this child, like, yep, it makes sense that she wasn't able to take that in. But with children who are high masking, I feel like it's so easy to lose sight of that.
Correct. And I think when we are looking at like asking them to do certain things, I think it's incumbent on us as teachers and within school systems to look at what's our actual goal here, right? If I want them to learn these academic skills, great. They have to have these social emotional skills before they can really navigate that. And before they can navigate the social emotional skills, they have to have skills for regulation and awareness, which means they need to be in an environment that allows for regulation. Otherwise, you're not meeting your top goal of academic instruction because all of their effort is going to go into just trying to feel regulated in that space. And I guess it's just hard for me to wrap my head around for teachers in schools of like, why wouldn't we want to focus on regulation first and say like, yeah, let's look at everybody's nervous system and understand what's going to be most helpful for them. And that's the work that I'm so grateful we have the privilege of doing with schools. And we're doing so much of it now in the kindergarten to fifth grade space, where we get to look at, if your goal is academic instruction, how do we create sensory and emotionally friendly and supportive spaces so that your kids can actually do that. So you're not spending your time saying, oh, eyes on me, or it's getting too loud, or well, I see a lot of bodies wiggling, let's hold still, or we're going to walk quietly in the line in the hallway. You're going to spend so much time trying to do that. And at the end of the day, it doesn't meet your actual goal.